2 is about they want to have evolution taught on equal terms with intelligent design in science rooms. Okay, I totally disagree with this. Because science is science. What they write in the Bible is theology. It's not science. Has nothing to do with science. So it's not science. Should not be taught as science because it isn't science. And they want to be taught teaching it like it's science, and it's just flat out wrong. Now, number 4 here, they're talking about sex education. They believe it's the right and responsibility of the parents to do that, to teach them about, sex and sexually transmitted diseases, which, hey, I believe, it's great. I think parents should be able to take the lead on that and teach their kids about sex, and they should. But you know what? Not all parents can, and not all parents are good at it. And sometimes they need some help. And you know what? A good resource like, an education facility that teaches, hey man, that sounds like a really logical place to have some type of, biological education when it comes to our reproductive systems and how they work, how they function, how to keep them healthy. Yeah, I think that's important stuff that we ought to be teaching our kids. I mean, having a healthy citizenry with healthy sexual habits, that's important to the success of a country. I really believe that, or even the perpetuation of it. That just makes logical sense. And here you go. We don't want to teach them that. We only want to teach them abstinence only. Prevent sexual transmission. We don't want to do anything with contraception. As a matter of fact, we're totally against contraception in any form, anyway. The logic is just profounding. Go on with what they oppose. Well, they oppose anything homosexual. No homosexual or promiscuous. They've got to put that in there. The link of the two. That's how they wordplay all this stuff. Homosexual behavior in a positive light. We don't want to show it in a positive light whatsoever in public schools at all. Can't do it, no way, no how, don't want to do it. So that's number 1. We oppose teacher multiculturalism. We oppose teaching multiculturalism. Oh man, that promotes cultural segregation. We respect different cultures and support teaching our commonalities as U.S. citizens. So they want to teach the commonalities, not the differences. But you know what? It's the differences that make us great. We ought to be learning all of it. We ought to be learning, I agree, we ought to be learning what our commonalities are. We ought to be doing that. I think that's a great idea. But you know what else I believe in? We ought to be knowing what our differences are too. Because you know what? The way we become so great is because we're all so different. Everybody has different skill sets, different ideals, different belief systems, and comes up in different ways. And we can use those different skill sets and different ways of thinking to, really achieve something, achieve big things. And that's what America's done for, a couple of centuries now. It's really how it makes us work so well is we have all these diverse backgrounds coming together, and so you have all these wonderful ideas and that you can put together. And that's the beauty of how this works so well. So their type of education is so regressive, it's going to set us back so far. So not teaching multiculturalism, I believe we should, and I believe that, in certain ways we should teach how we're all common. But, I believe we should teach how we're different. They oppose implementation of revisionist, framework teaching of U.S. history, AP history. That's been kind of an old deal, AP history. They don't like anything AP anyway. They oppose re-education, LGBT lifestyle history. Anything, there we go, but number 5 is about the same as number 1. So, we don't like, the queer. So, that's just where they're at. They oppose teaching the theory of anthropogenic global warming without providing equal time and instruction for complex systems of geophysics. Really complex systems of geophysics and climate change. It's because they don't believe in climate change, but I get it. Republican Party, bought and owned by the oil industry, especially here in Oklahoma, so, they gotta be whatever against it, however they can be against climate change, and that we can't teach that in public schools at all. So we gotta teach it, something different. Administrative and management. Well, what do they say here? What do they believe in? They believe teachers should not be coerced to adjust standards for any failing student. Okay, that's cool. I believe that too. We believe positive competitive spirit in public school activities. Okay. We believe teacher retirement funds should be articulately funded with full public disclosure. Yeah, the teacher retirement fund should be funded with full public disclosure. I'm not sure where they're getting at there. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We believe the public schools should protect the privacy of any personal data. Okay, well, that sounds pretty good on management. We support, yeah, okay, well, that is kind of dry. So a lot of this, it's pretty normal stuff, we support public independent auditing. Okay, yeah, who doesn't, right? We support the removal of automatic teacher tenure. I don't know. Some aspects of teacher tenure work, some don't. We could probably tweak it. They want to remove it totally, but I don't think that's necessary. We support the consolidation of teaching, technical, operational, and administrative resources of small school districts. So basically, this is school consolidation. So they believe in school consolidation, which really harms small towns. There's a small community I can think of named Spavinaw, Oklahoma. They had a school there, a small school. It went from kindergarten to 8th grade, and it got consolidated. They lost it. So basically, it took this town, 1,000 or a little under 1,500 residents, and totally decimated it because it was one of the biggest things that was keeping that town alive. And now there's no jobs there, and there's nothing. So basically, it's a town of about a few hundred. So it really sucked out a lot of the resources out of that town. Businesses had to leave because some were just, the teachers and the staff that was there, they catered to them, and now they're not there anymore. So it really decimated their whole town as far as their economy and everything else. So that was a big blow to them, and that's pretty much what we're going to see. We're going to see a drive towards bigger inner cities if you consolidate schools. Now, I think some of them maybe ought to be consolidated. Not all of them. Not on the scale that the Republicans think they ought to do. But yeah, some of them, we might ought to look into that, and we might be able to, get some more efficiencies out of it that way. But a big grand scale, like, man, we need to cut this down to 70 districts. We need to cut down 4/5 of our districts. That's ludicrous. But it might be something to look at in certain areas. But I can have seen in ways where it's devastating to a small town to lose its school or to lose its school district. And you pretty much drive those people away from the rural areas and more into the inner cities. And so that's what you do. Another two things to note on their what they agree with when it comes to education. They support the Constitution where it comes to compulsory education for kids 8 to 16, but they oppose year-round schooling. They also oppose the Department of Education when it comes to federal level, and so they want to totally do away with it. Right? Yeah, we want none of the funding. We want to send that back. They shouldn't have anything to do with schooling our own kids here in Oklahoma. I can get that in some ways. Sure, man. I mean, we give a lot of local control, but yeah, that funding comes in handy, and I get why they don't want public schools to take it. It's not because of some principles they have. It's because they truly don't like public education and they'd like to kill it. So that's another good way to do it. We drive the funding however we can, federal, state, whatever. We oppose. If the teacher's going to have a union, well, we're going to cut their funding here. We're going to force them to pay more money, education department to pay more money to print special checks out that allow the teachers themselves to pay in dues on their own instead of automatically take it out. So there's another extra expense to education that's an unfunded mandate. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make them, fund their own, do the same thing with their pensions and everything else. So we're going to cause more red tape, and we're going to cause more paperwork, and we're going to cause more expense in the education system here in Oklahoma in certain administrative ways that you may not see in the classroom, but you'll definitely see in the classroom when it comes to not being able to resource and supply it. So that's what you get with the Oklahoma Republican Party platform on education. As far as what they oppose, They have a few things. They oppose allowing public school districts receiving any state funding to pay for collect employees' organizational dues. Like I was saying, yeah, we oppose that, man, because we want to make it as costly as possible for them to do this. We want to oppose targeted collection by the government of personal information. Okay, we oppose designation of public schools as gun-free zones. Yeah, okay. I think that might be a good idea. We oppose the issuance of bonds by school districts to fund operational expenses. So, yeah, funds for bonds should only go to build the stadium. And, it usually does. Plant and equipment, that's usually what bonds are for, and that's why they do that. When it comes to higher education, they got a few points they make on here. We believe students who are U.S. citizens should be able to use taxpayer-funded scholarships, grants, or other financial aid, or obtain a degree in the field of their choice, including religious studies. Honestly, hey man, as long as it applies, if you can apply it to everybody, sure, degree fields in theology, which, border geology, maybe even archaeology, would cover things like that. And, I can see, hey man, if you're going to be an archaeologist, you're probably going to study things on religions. And you're probably going to want to know different symbols and what different, rituals might have meant or mean, in today's age or then. And that makes sense. Maybe we ought to fund that, in a certain way. If somebody wants to further themselves in a certain way, well, maybe we should let them. I don't think that applies to like very private schools or, applying, tax dollar federal grants, towards private schools or even especially religious schools that don't pay taxes. I kind of have a problem with that. That seems like it's a sense of ethics for me. These people aren't paying into the system. Why should they get a benefit? Why should their organization get a benefit? If they're not paying into it, it just really makes sense to me. But limiting degree fields, okay, I can agree with them on this. They believe there should be a required course in phonics for elementary school teacher certification. Reading lingo arts, I might be able to go along with that. But here we go again, another unfunded mandate. They need to be certified in. They need to keep up that certification, and you guys need to figure out a way to pay for it. We don't want to. So they want to sound this. So it sounds great on the surface. I think it sounds great, man, because we do want them to be qualified. That makes sense. We're going to get the best if we do that, and our kids are just going to, excel because of it. And but here we go again. They're not going to fund that, and we have another unfunded mandate that they want to put in place. That will eventually kill education, because that's the goal. We believe the civil rights of college students, including their right to due process, must be protected. I'm sure everybody agrees with that. I'm not sure what they're getting at there. And then they got what they support. The last section, what we support. We support meaningful reform in the structure of our higher education system, including evaluation of all programs and individuals for the elimination and reform of substandard performing programs and individuals. So I'm not so sure what they're getting out here. It sounds kind of like there's certain people they don't like and we want to get rid of, and we want to put some of our own people in place. That's what that sounds to me. It doesn't really say, hey man, here's the qualifications we think they should have, or here's the thing that we want to streamline, or we talk to these experts. No, we pretty much, this platform is a political statement. So this is a political statement on education. There's certain people that don't align with our politics and our education system, and we need to remove them. And that's basically what they're saying here in item 1 of what they support: removal of people they disagree with. We support budgeting tied to comprehensive planning process. Okay, that makes sense. We support strict adherence to the law that requires a majority of 9-member board of regents. Okay, they support the enactment of campus carry policies. Okay, in schools. Okay, campus carry policies. Now this is Second Amendment stuff. They want to be able to have people to carry firearms into classrooms on university campuses. I think that actually probably ought to be up to each individual university as to what they want to do with that. Maybe their own region and I can kind of see some small guidelines on, but that really ought to be up to the individual campuses. And I don't know how much I'm for all that in a lot of different ways. But here you go, the Oklahoma Republican Party platform on education. It's a bunch of overly religious, and only Christian religion, let's get that out, overly Christian religious, overly anti-gay and lesbian, overly anti-transgender, overly anti-union, and overly anti-public school, pro-private charter and home. And that's what you got with the Republican Party today, their platform, right here, online. Go see it for yourself. This is Across the Desk with Kit Fairchild. We'll see you next week.